You are listening to the Next Play podcast, the playbook for high-performing leaders who want to exceed their full potential. From walking on the Ole Miss football team at 5'7", 150 pounds and earning a full D1 scholarship, to coaching thousands around the world and working with massive organizations like IBM. I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me as I interview some of the most successful people so you too can learn how to focus on always moving forward by deciding, planning, and executing on the next play relentlessly. This is Richie Contartesi with the Next Play podcast, and today we have a very special guest by the name of Tods Story, somebody who's been in a sales leadership role for 20 years and has some great experience. Todd, super excited and glad to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Richie. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Cool, man. Me too. I really am. I was actually just speaking with a few of my team members and I was like, I'm excited to dive in and learn myself. So just to give you a little background, obviously Todd's been doing this for a while, but just some of the big highlights that really stood out to me that I think you should hear before to give him just a little bit of credibility, but it's a lot. So he's delivering 85 million in new revenue in just 4 years, while with Spectrum Enterprise, that's the the streaming TV marketing company behind it. He's growing new MRR counts by 200% in just 2 years, while sustaining the new growth year over year, and increasing revenue by more than 1,000% to over 100 million, while averaging 24% growth year over year. While serving as the sales director for Cox Business. So he's been in telecommunications, but it doesn't matter. He's in B2B sales. He is at least an expert in the B2B sales world, and growing teams, growing people, retaining people. So Todd, super excited to have you on the show, man. Let's start right with I know you went to USC, University of South California, great school, California.
Yeah, careful there.
Walk me through how you got into business.
Yeah, so you're right. I went to USC, the real USC, University of Southern California.
Trojans.
Not the Gamecocks. Yeah, we're the Trojans. No fun there on that conversation. But yes, when I got out of school, I went into the real estate management field. I was a public administration major in college. And most people are like, what the heck is that? And what that was is a lot of hospitality or healthcare management or public service. And I kind of realized from the public service space that you can't really make a lot of money unless you become a career politician. So I got an opportunity to go into the real estate management field, managing retail properties and multifamily properties and some commercial. And that kind of led me into a sales space. I got an opportunity one time to become a salesperson. So again, like just about everybody else, I didn't go to school for sales or sales leadership. And I never thought about being in sales. In fact, I thought you had to really be born to be a salesperson. And I found out after the fact that you don't. But I got into that and got an opportunity to be a sales leader and just never kind of looked back.
Awesome. So tell me about this first opportunity you had as a sales leader, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So interesting story. I happened to be a salesperson at the time and trying to network with another division or an arm of a company that I was working at. And I got an opportunity to go speak to their sales team, of which the time the VP of sales was there. I was just trying to network and be able to partner up, have networking partners and so forth. And as soon as I was done with that so-called breakfast and learn, not lunch and learn, but a breakfast and learn, the VP came over to me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about being a sales leader?" And I'm like, "No, but sure. What do you got going on?" And she just happened to see something in me. So thankfully, Holly Horchevet was able to say, "Hey, I want you to be a sales leader on my team." And I took the opportunity, and it was great. I had a lot to learn. It was that period in time in my life where I really stepped back and dug into really learning on my own. Back in the day, I'm going to date myself here a little bit. Back in the day, that's when we used to get CDs and used to have to open up this big, thick thing that came in the mail and plop it into your computer, right? We didn't have podcasts or audible books. So I did a lot of reading and a lot of CD learning around leadership and, how to show up for your people. Fortunately, I've had some good people along the way to guide me and help me as well. But a lot of it has been just self-learning and following, people that are, know what they're doing.
Yeah. And so today I want to definitely spend some time and just talking about how you've had the success you've had over the past, 20 years, but probably more narrowly the past five years, only because
Yep.
times have changed so much.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like leadership back then is way different than leadership today. So I want to stay narrow focused with you because you've had so much success recently. So I just want to walk through, a little bit today. Like, what's your philosophy today around sales leadership? Obviously, I'm sure it's so different than when it was 20 years ago, but today, what's kind of your philosophy and what has worked for you as far as being a leader and helping your people develop?
Yeah. So first, I think that a lot of fundamentals don't change from year to year, or and whether you're a salesperson or a leader or whatever you're doing, I think fundamentals are really important. But then how you go about it and things that do evolve is where you have to evolve with it. So first of all, I really, really believe that you got to lead from the heart with purpose. And a lot of people have heard that over time. It's like, oh, leading from the heart, selling from the heart. What does that really mean? In fact, I had someone when I came here at Kings 3, they're like, what does that really mean? And it really is the same as it's always been. It's like showing up for your people. I think there's a lot of leaders in the world today that tend to hire for experience, and then they hire them and believe because they have their experience already that you should just leave them alone and let them go. So, I really believe that you got to show up and really develop your people. So my fundamentals around development of people and being there with them on a regular basis and not being that CRM desk jockey, right? It's really easy with our CRM tools today to just look at the data and bark orders, right?
F5 pusher.
That's right. And it's like, hey, your numbers aren't enough. Go sell more. And again, a lot of my conversation is going to be around from a sales perspective, because that's where all my leadership
is. Of course, that's where we want to stay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So it's really coaching and really getting out there and being with them. And an example of that, one analogy I like to use is we often may tell someone, hey, time to get something to drink. Go over to that water fountain. You see the water fountain over there? Okay, go get something to drink and come back. Right. But we don't take the time to really like walk over, make sure they make it to the fountain, and then show them how to actually do that, the button to push or to scoop it in your hands, and walk them through actually how to do that the right way. We just have too much expectations on people already understanding how to do it, or we're too lazy to go show them.
Yeah. So it's like most leaders will tell you the what and the when, but they won't work with you on the how.
That's absolutely correct.
So that's what we always talk about: what, how, when. It's like the what, and if you don't know how the hell are you going to do it?
That's right. And we use a term in our company here a lot. It's not the what, it's the how. So that applies to everything. It's like, even sports analogies dial in so much in my space. You can't just say, hey, line up and block that guy on the other side. That's the what, right? But what is the how? Like, you got to get your hands up in the right spot and make sure you're not pulling down on his jersey, or at least don't get caught doing it.
Under the shoulder pads. Like,
that's right.
In narrow, tight, dip, get underneath. Right.
That's right. And then it just applies to everything you do. So the how is super important. Yeah. I think there's a lot of people in this world talk about the what, but they don't get down into the, you got to get into the weeds a little bit and talk about the how as well. Because a lot of people haven't been trained around stuff like that.
Right. So that kind of separates, right? Because so in leadership, you've got management, you've got training, you have coaching, and then you have accountability, right? So I want to talk real quick about this how and how you deliver that. Is that delivered the way you do it more in like a coaching capacity, or is that in more of a training capacity? Like, what's your process for saying, I'm working with somebody, I need them, I hit F5 and I see their conversion rate in this particular area is struggling. I need to get them better. I'm going to work with them on the how. Like, what's your approach to that?
So yeah, I love this topic, and we're talking a lot about it where I'm at today. And it seems like you never stop learning, right? So I have to go all the way back to the kind of people that I'm hiring or attempting to hire, right? And when I'm first looking for people, I always tell people I'm not looking to hire someone to motivate them. I'm looking to create the environment where people that are already motivated can thrive. So, right. So I'm really looking for people that are curious or have curiosity. And I know some of these words in mindset are kind of buzzwords today, but to have that curiosity tells me with someone that they're want to be able to learn whatever we're going to teach them, or go do some learning on their own, which is quite honestly required. And I think anything you do today. So I'm looking for that person that's curious. And I believe that there's two kind of phases to, at least in my space, sales leaders today, is they've got to be really good at hiring and finding the right kind of candidates. And they've got to really be good at the onboarding process. And I don't mean fire hose in the first 2 weeks, and then it goes to a crimp garden hose. And I have countless people that we hire that say, wow, I'm used to someone just they hire me, they give me the keys and they say, go. And I'm like, that's where the mistake is made.
Here's
right?
your Zoom info account.
That's right. There's your territory. Go spin around and figure out what to do, right? The world is your oyster, conquer it, right? Or whatever. So we've been working just even recently on kind of a 90-day battle plan and getting people not just onboarded in the first week about all, Kings 3, and where's your territory and how to go sell, but we're going to carry them out for 90 days. Right, of a very disciplined, structured approach to make sure that they get settled in, right?
Okay, so let me. This is a really good topic. Obviously, Great Resignation, blah blah blah. It's just an excuse that people that term to me. So it's just adapting, right? It's just there's this new, people have options. So how do we adapt, right? So for you, as we get into hiring, I love that your philosophy is not hire 2 weeks, fire hose, here's your Zoom info account or territory, but yours is let's do. And I remember our initial conversation, you're like, it's more of a drip, right?
Yes.
It's more of a, so, but before that even happens, a lot of leaders are struggling with finding top talent and bringing them on board. How are you able to do that? How have you been able to have success with that?
Well, it starts with the hiring process, but I think it also starts with the leader themselves. I was thinking about this earlier, and first of all, I think as a leader, you've got to have some consistency and longevity of where you've been to know that you have the skill to attract people. Right? So if I'm looking at, I guess maybe if a candidate was looking at a company and they saw a lot of turnover, right, that probably wouldn't excite them. Right? Because they're probably thinking they're not going to do very well. I think it goes for the leader as well. There's too many people that just want to move very fast and not get the foundation and the skills that they need. So first of all, I'm looking for leaders that are going to stick it out, right? And do the hard work and have some success, because I think that attracts talent, right? Who doesn't want to go to a football program where the coach is not on a carousel? Like being at USC, I know what that's like, right? Not that I was a player, right? But I'm like, how do you attract top talent even on a football team when your coach might not be there every 2 or 3 years, right? I think we're finally settling into a good one. But I think that's with a sales leader as well. Another sports analogy, right? That applies in our space.
Sales is sports. Like there's
it's a contact sport, right?
100%. And I think, this is such a great topic. So attracting talent. So you look at the schools that win, right? Attract talent, right? And so so when you're winning and you have great retention and you have salespeople that are like, we're actually going to an event tomorrow. Their salespeople make 7 figures. I'm like, wow. Dang, like this is no joke. Yeah. So there's one thing that I think has, the Great Resignation has given an opportunity for sales leaders, and I want your philosophy on this, to be proactive in finding top talent and then getting them attracted to them, then getting them through the process. So for example, Nick Saban doesn't need to attract, but Nick Saban still has to go into the kid's house. Absolutely. And talk to the parents and get, and so today sales leaders are like, I posted it on Indeed. I'm like, so what do you mean? I posted it on ZipRecruiter,
right?
Exactly. So like, if you want to find top talent for you, like you're attracting them, you've built this culture. So, and we'll talk through that, but so you've attracting them now. How are you going out and getting them and saying like, I'm going to be your leader. I'm going to take you to the promised land, to actually sit for them to be like, I'll do it. I want to be a part of your team. Like, what's your process around that?
Yeah. So first of all, when we are talking with candidates, it's speaking from the heart and being truthful in what you're saying. I find too many, I've seen or heard too many that are trying to sell the candidate on the job. I'm not. I'm going to tell you the good and the bad. There's no ugly here. But I mean, every company has good and bad, right? And there's a lot of people that don't put that foot forward to say, hey, you're going to have some situations that occur that we're going to have to get through, right? Mm-hmm. I think the one thing, like I said, a lot of things have stayed pretty consistent over time. I think what's changed over the last probably 10 or 15 years is we got a pretty diverse group of people, right? In age and everything. And millennials, themselves want to be developed, right? They want to grow and feel part of something. And, my age generation was just coin operated, hire them and tell them where it is and they'll go get it. Now they really need to be developed. So I'm truthful about what we're going to do. I'm going to say,
listen, expectations.
The expectations, I have to set clear expectations. And some people are like, oh, like, is that make them feel uncomfortable? It's like, I don't want them to feel uncomfortable after the fact. I'd rather them feel uncomfortable now so they know what they're getting into in a positive way. Yeah. So clear expectations. Hey, this is what your onboarding or training program is going to look like. The expectations around a company can give you some training. Some companies give you a decent amount. Some don't give you enough. And most companies can't give you everything you need. So the expectation is you're going to go out and self-train too. Like you're going to read some books and listen to podcasts, right? And sharpen your sword. That's what's important in your space. So just really truthful up front about what the expectations of the job is going to be, and how we're going to be there with you along the way.
Yeah.
That's how I talk to them up front.
Got it. Okay. So set clear expectations and then also share with them your process for leading them from point A to point B.
Correct. Yep.
Just curious, what softwares do you use? What tools do you use to execute like the attraction? And like, are you using LinkedIn a lot? Or are you using like, what platforms are you using?
Ours predominantly are LinkedIn and Indeed. Those are the two primary ones. So, from a LinkedIn perspective, which is a little passive, I think leaders have to be more engaged in LinkedIn as well.
What do you mean by engaged? Like commenting and posting and doing podcasts and.
Absolutely. I don't think you have to be like a content creator. Like, I mean, that's probably not my jam. But I love to be able to follow good LinkedIn influencers, people in my space, and comment on their, so they can start to get a feel if you're going to check me out, which I hope you do. If you don't, you probably already missed the mark.
You're not serious. If they're not checking.
Here I am. I'm right here, right? I'm on LinkedIn and I'm commenting. You're going to start to get a feel for what kind of person I am. People comment on, and we either agree with my comments or not. They're all professional, but that's how my mind thinks or works.
Your opinion.
And I think that gives an insight to who I am as a leader, and should hopefully give you comfort that now when you meet with me and talk with me, you're going to have to hopefully hear the same thing. You're going to hear it from the hiring manager. You're going to hear it from me. All of our salespeople talk to our CEO before we hire them. So hopefully you're hearing from 3 people that are all saying the same thing.
Yeah. Are you researching the person beforehand on LinkedIn too? Are you going to their profile, looking at their activity?
I love, this is interesting because, so both my sons have played lacrosse. Well, one's, as you know, still playing lacrosse in college.
Sacred Heart. He's the one at.
Yeah. Sacred Heart University in Fairfield.
Nice.
And so I've gone through the recruiting process, right? You have too, right? And it dawned on me going through that, why are we not doing the same thing that recruiters do. Like
Exactly.
they're looking
Exactly.
at your profiles, they're looking at Facebook and they're looking at Instagram.
Especially if you're going to get a scholarship.
That's right. So why would that be any different? So I do that. Some people like, are you creeping on people? I'm like, no, I want to see what you're made of, what are your values? And, it's a kind of a window into your soul. A lot of people put a lot of stuff out there. So I do look into that, and I'd look at LinkedIn primarily as my first source. Did you have something professionally set up, a professional picture? How do you carry yourself from a social media perspective?
Yeah. It's important. Okay. So you bring them on. So let's kind of go back a little bit to the how and how you, how you develop them, right? So I understand they're on the 90-day drip. What's your philosophy on training, coaching, development? What does that kind of look like for you? How have you had so much success? Like if we look at, even if we look from Spectrum and SiteMinder and what you're doing at King's, like what have you seen the most success in that area? Because you like you said, that's what salespeople want. So how have you had so much success there?
First of all, I think it's having a process. I've seen, and there's some of those companies I've been at, not this one and not necessarily the last one, but some have been bring them on and give them a little bit and leave it up to the sales manager to train. And so I think you got to have a process, and you've got to have some good guardrails about what you're going to do. I use this term, goofy if it might be. I'm like, listen, we're going to give you a coloring book, right? And it's going to be a picture of a panda. Like, don't change the panda. Like, it's a panda, right? But how you color it is going to be up to you. Or we're going to give you enough of training that's going to give you the ability to make it your own, but it's the panda first, right? So
I like that. So what we normally say is we'll give you the playbook, and then you got to call the plays.
That's the exact same thing. Yeah, for some reason I use a child's term, and
a coloring book. It works.
But it gets their attention. It's like, you mean I can't change the panda? I'm like, no, leave the eyes on the panda where they're at, right? And the mouth. And now, based on the skills we've given you, now color it and make it your own, right? So that's just the analogy I use. So it's very similar to what you're saying. And so it's having the process and then having the discipline to follow that process from people that know what they're doing. And that starts with making sure your leaders know how to do it. And quite honestly, I have a sales enablement manager as well. And she handles a lot of that up front, and we stick to it. That's what's enabled me to have that success, is to say, this is what we're going to do in this period of time. And then you're going to be dripped on as long as you're here.
So how do you create that process? Because that's the thing. Some people have playbooks, most don't, right? Yeah, how do you go about, so if you started at Spectrum, when you start, do you create your own playbook, or do you do a listening tour and make adjustments to a current playbook? Like, or to your coloring book? Like, what's your process for creating the process?
Yeah. So sometimes you fall into it because the company's already got one. Most don't. I created, I should say we, I should never say I, because it was we who created our sales play. I've created a sales playbook and a sales management playbook here. And you first have to sit down and really decide what's the most important thing for a newer hire or someone that's, in their first year, what's going to be most beneficial for them to follow and refer back to. So you sit down and work on that. I wanted to make sure that I really reinforce who we are, so who our people are, our process, our product, the problem that we solve. So we kind of put that together.
Okay, so just because this is a really good topic, right? So I want to just stick with the sales management playbook.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you don't have to tell me everything, but what are some things that are in it? Is it more like what you're saying, which is like, here's our ICP, and here's our core values, and here's our expectations, and here's how you manage somebody? Like, what's in that management playbook? Because I think that's something most people don't have a sales, which I would expect would be like scripts and objections, and stuff like. Let's talk about the management one though. What's in that?
So some of the things that you mentioned, but it's a combination of things. So I'm even putting in there, hey, this is a new hire form. This is where you find it. This is how you execute against it. right? This is how it should look, so they have something to refer back to. That I had my team in here last week, and that running joke is they'll ask me a question. I'm like, did you look in the playbook? So now they don't even ask, right? It's the discipline of looking in the playbook. It doesn't answer anything and everything, right? Because it can't, but it gives the bones of how to do your management job. And it gets into hiring, quite honestly. It's got an interview guide of what we think are the right questions to ask. But first, even what are the type of candidates that we're looking for? What do we feel is important? So it has all those piece parts in there, not just leadership, but it's got, a one-on-one document and how it should operate, and, the questions you should ask. So it's got those kind of piece parts to it.
Okay. Got it. Okay. And so is this now the one at King's, is this something that you like, where do you store all that? Cause I've had some people that they're like, I have all these different parts and nobody can find them. And some people have used Google Drive, and some people have used, a website. Like, how have you organized everything? Cause that's a challenge.
Yeah. So from a management perspective, so we use Outlook, and we use Teams. And within Teams, you can create groups. Yeah. So I've got a King's 3 sales leadership group. And within that, it's you've got your chat, so just our chats can stay amongst ourselves for quick hits and updates and things like that. And then there's a file section. So I've gone in there and simply created a file or in folders where everything sits. So at any time we change anything or update anything, I just send a message, hey, forecast files updated, for the new month, or, hey, added this section to the playbook that we talked about. And it's sitting there for them to go access it whenever they need.
So you keep it in Teams?
I keep it all in Teams. Yep. It's a shared file and they can access it from anywhere as long as I've given them the right to have it.
Got it. And so basically in Teams, you have one, core folder for managers, and then that's broken into different folders where different things are stored. Documents, sheets.
Yep. And every one of my sales leader does the same thing. So they have their own, Southeast BDM region team. And so that's how they keep all it's a learning as well, because it enables those sellers to ask questions, quick hits and even the leader might not be involved, but a team member may be, and they're like, oh, this is what I would do. Oh, I came across this. Right. So then all of a sudden, if there's a document that they need to share or house and refer back to on a regular basis, they just upload it into the file section on Teams. And it's been really, really helpful. We do it at our senior leadership team. I do it at my team level, and we do it at the regional sales manager level as well.
Beautiful. So how have you been able to keep people, so the next challenge on the journey is getting people to stick to it, right? So sometimes people will quickly veer off. What's been your process to keep people, hey, this is in Teams, this is the playbook, like, why are we running different plays over here? Why are we coloring outside the panda? Like, how are you keeping them in the game, inside the lines, for your analogy?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it goes, I think, with that saying that's been around for a long time, trust but verify. I trust my leaders. You have to, if you don't trust your leaders, you're in trouble. So I trust them, but I'm also involved in their meetings and one-on-ones. I can't be to all of them, but I drop into them. It's not a skip level, which you can do, which is healthy. So I pick up the phone and call reps more just to connect with them and say hello, more so than anything, but you learn stuff along the way. But more so it's attending some of their sales meetings and their one-on-ones and engaging them in a way that you just don't just completely trust, I guess. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Just being engaged at that level. But it's not necessarily to verify as well. I like the term, but it can take the wrong meaning, right?
Right. You're not like looking like every day, like, hey, are you doing this thing and this? You're checking in, periodically, and then, they know that's going to happen. So that's okay. Got it.
Yeah. The number one reason why I do it is because I want to be able to connect and let them know that I'm in the game with them.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Because you're
if I'm
the
just barking orders and it's like, well, you haven't even been in my meeting or my one-on-one, how do you even know? It's like, well, I do know. I've been there. I've been engaged. I heard it, right? I've seen it with my own two eyes. Let me help you with this, or this is where I see this going. Have you thought about this?
Yeah. Yeah. And so you were saying, so your team has one-on-ones, like your sales leaders have one-on-ones with their reps?
Yep, every single week.
Do you do that with the sales leaders?
Yes. Yep.
Got it.
Every week we got a time set aside, blocked on my calendar, right? Those are high value activities at my level, is to be able to connect with my sales leaders and them with their salespeople.
Absolutely, man. I love it. So what have you found? Cause like there's a lot, most don't. Like,
Yeah.
why have you found those to be so useful, and what's kind of the agenda for them?
Well, the one-on-one from our sales leaders to the sellers is really an accountability session. It's talk about their current results. I mean, keep in mind, I mean, sales is results. I try not to I use this term, hey, don't focus on the scoreboard, focus on the plays you're running, right? Because I think that reality is real. If we're just always worried about
Next
what
play
you're
in front of me.
selling,
Yeah.
you're going to miss what they're doing or not doing properly on a sales call. So, so we talk about results though, because at the end of the day, results are what's matter, right? That's what wins championships. So you got to win, and we talk about it, but then we really kind of talk about pipeline and activity. I got this really from Mike Weinberg. He's really the master around this. So we talk a lot about, again, pipeline and what have you been creating and advancing, from week to week. And if that's not real healthy and it's not going on, then you really got to talk about activity. And we get down to, what does your week look like? How are you planning it out? Where are you going? What are you doing? And, you find people that don't follow a process tend to be lost. I think extroverts can win without a process. They're better with a process. And then introverts can also win, but they absolutely need to follow a process.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. And so I want to jump real quick between what spectrum, because
Mhm.
like that, if I'm going to use spectrum as a marketing, like if I'm going to invest and use spectrum, that's really more for B2C, right? Like I'm not gonna, is that correct? Like if I have a B2B business, I probably am
Yeah.
not. Would
It
you agree?
depends what part of Spectrum I was with Spectrum Enterprise, which was the commercial side of the house,
Yeah.
selling telecommunication services to businesses.
Got it.
We're not on the media side.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So walk me through your philosophy on B2B sales. Like, how does one create a system? If I'm in a leadership role and my sales team is just struggling with B2B sales, we have Zoom info, we got phones, we have emails, we have LinkedIn. Like, what's working today in B2B sales?
So first of all, I think the number one reason why salespeople fail is a lack of activity. So you can give them a lot of that stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean they're using it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've got to properly set yourself up, not to micromanage them, but be micro aware of the activity that they're generating.
Mm-hmm.
But even more importantly, to establish a few key stages in your process, from like, say, opportunity creation to maybe proposal created to sold, right? And it's the conversions and the win rates is where the rubber hits the road.
Got it.
Because some people need less opportunities than others. It just depends on their ability to close deals.
Right. And I'm assuming that's what your leaders do. You've got your pipeline in each stage. You have a conversion rate for every stage.
Correct.
And so that's what you're specifically tracking.
Yeah.
So I want to go to activity, because I think that's super important. What is good activity for you? Like, if you said that's acceptable, this amount of activity, or for you, what's acceptable?
Picking up the damn phone.
But is it 20 calls a day? Is it 150 calls a day? Is it emails, or do you put a system together where it's calls with a voicemail, with an email, with a LinkedIn message? Like, what's kind of like acceptable amount? Because like,
so for me, so there's no perfect answer there. It comes down to conversions, but I do believe in a blended approach. First of all, the phone's not dead.
Omnipresence now, which is like
I'm not familiar.
So a lot of these so there's a lot of B2B, like they basically act as an SDR or BDR for your company.
Okay. So
And
we have SDRs.
yeah. So they'll put together like, so you could basically outsource SDRs. And what they do
Yes.
is they put together
Yep.
this, like, you know, we're going to do, banner ads that they're going to see first. And then they're going to get a LinkedIn view. And then they're going to get a email. Then they're going to get a LinkedIn command. I'm like, dang, like this huge, like super. So there's some softwares out there. I'll share with you. One of them's Meet Alfred. One of it's Mailshake. Another good one is, I don't know if it does the calls. Those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
I think Lemlist is another one, but where you can actually do all of those different things with one singular prospect.
Yeah, and that helps because it gets you into a cadence. So, and that's the so-called blend, right? So you still got to pick up the phone. I do believe in emailing as long as you're very clear on what your message is and there's some value in there. I believe like emails and LinkedIn and social stuff is building familiarity. That doesn't necessarily help you with selling, other than building some familiarity around who you are as a person in your company. So whether it's in the field or over the phone and email, and that you just have to blend it. So I don't get down to specific amounts on each person because everyone's a little bit different. With us here, we also have a partner channel program where we have elevator service companies that don't want to be involved with the phones because they generally don't like it. They refer their customers to us. So we have a couple different levers to pull as it relates to that.
Is that like an affiliate type deal where like it's like a rev share model where they'll refer people and you kick back?
It can be a revenue share scenario, but for us, it's a one-time sale. In the scenario that, hey, we sent you a referral, great, we contacted the customer, we sold them, we pay you, right?
So it's more of an affiliate type.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
So that's how that's how we're predominantly set. Nothing like a super secret, nothing shiny object. A lot of people telling people to go in a different direction and only get on social media, and for us, our end user isn't generally like sitting around thinking, geez, I wonder if someone could be monitoring my phone different than today. It's like, who thinks about that, right? It's
Right.
Probably been working, or they think it has been. We find out 50% of the time it's not to code. But nevertheless, like, we got to get in front of them. So I need my sellers to be proactive and really outbound and be a hunter from that perspective. Yes, we have SDRs that also help support them, but the expectation is, here are the tools. This is your market, your territory. We've trained you. Let's work on setting up a good action plan to go attack the market, run the right plays. And these are the things these are the steps to success to be successful here. We're part of associations and all sorts of stuff.
Got it. And so those steps are phone calls, emails, LinkedIn messages.
Yep. Partnering with our SDRs, partnering up with our elevator service companies that are out there.
Right.
Attending associations like BOMA or IFM or IRM.
Do you do like tables? Like, do you get like a booth?
Yeah, we do trade shows as well. So we're real big into the property management world on both the residential and we're multifamily and both the commercial side. So we attend those events throughout the year.
Got it. What are your most successful reps doing? Like in the, just specifically in B2B, like what are they doing that you've seen, like these are what our most successful reps are doing and they're closing at, high percentage? Like, is there anything that they're doing specifically?
They're just comfortable with getting out there and meeting people. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So they're out there getting those opportunities, whether it's over the phone or in person. They're just relentless in terms of getting in front of that end user. That's what they're predominantly doing. And then, and making sure they can build a relationship too along the way. Relationships are super important because, and if you earn that right and that value along the way, then they're asking for referrals. Like, that still happens. Like, people still ask for referrals. Some people say it's such an old school thing. I'm like, no, it's not. As long as you've earned the right to do it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, like, I hate to disappoint some people. Like, oh, I'm looking for something like new, is shiny, sexy. I'm like, no, it's fundamentals. Like, do the work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Know your territory and where they're at, and get in front of them and know how to speak to people in a way that helps them feel valued and solve their problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything specifically like from a leadership perspective, like, the last, just sticking with the last three companies, all of them have grown drastically since you've been there. Um, if you had to pick one, two, or three like core things that you put in place to allow that to happen, what would those be?
Well, certainly hiring the right people.
Yeah. I know
That's
you've went back to that a few times for
Yeah,
sure.
and you can't, you're never perfect at it. You make mistakes. I mean, all the time, you're not all the time, but from time to time, you're going to go, man, how did I miss that? But that's absolutely critical. The onboarding is next. The development of people. So having a process that really looking out, it's almost like as a leader, having a business plan around having successful people. And what does that look like? And looking out, like, what does the roadmap look for the people I'm hiring for at least the next year, right? In terms of onboarding them and getting them comfortable in their own skin and at our company and in the marketplace to be successful. Because once they catch fire and they're successful, it's between the ears now. Again, back to sports, there's so much going on between the ears. And if your players aren't in salespeople or in the sports world, if your players are not right between the ears, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to connect with them and care for them and, help them to understand that you're really there for them.
Yeah.
Those are the things I put in place, really, that kind of culture and ability to want to own it and grow as a person to be successful.
When do you decide to pull the plug? You're building this culture, some people are just not going to mesh, right? Like,
Yep.
I mean, what does that look like? Like, how, as a leader, when is it like, all right, like this is time to, your coloring sheet is, there's no lines. Like, when when do you do that? Like, what's your process?
Some are definitely harder than others, right? But I have some basic rules. I tell everybody, even probably during the interview process and certainly after we hire them, I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for effort and attitude, of which I always ask them, can I control that? And it's always like a trick question and they get a little goofy with me. And I'm like, no, no, I could. Like, I could be the biggest jerk or I could be your biggest cheerleader. Either way, I'm going to affect your attitude, which will probably then affect your effort. But ultimately, you control that. No matter what your situation is, you affect that. So then it comes down to performance. Once we've decided that someone, we'll get to some point in the road where we know they're not performing. I mean, in sales, it's pretty obvious, right? You're either hitting your number or you're not. And we've done our due diligence, which is super important, to get engaged and find out their conversions and what's missing and get behind them and support the heck out of them in terms of giving them that opportunity to develop. And then their attitude and effort are not there. That happens a lot sooner then. So if the results aren't there and their effort and attitude are not there, those are quicker decisions.
Yeah.
If their effort and attitude are there, even though we've maybe are kind of in some final stages of performance, I'm going to hold on to them for a much longer time. They're easier to hold on to. Like, why wouldn't you? Some people just take longer. Everyone develops at a different speed, and I'm willing to hold on to people that come with the right attitude and the right effort every day.
Do you have like a timeline on that? It's like, okay, I've been holding on for 3 months and I'm like, you're still not getting any traction, or no?
I don't. Again, everyone's different because of their development stage, but certainly I'm not going to hold on. You can't probably hold on to someone for over a year, as long as if their attitude and effort's there, but it's like, man, we've been through training like over and over again, 3-4 times. And it's just not there, then at some point you've got to have that decision like, hey, this is probably not the right fit for you. I want to see you leave from a position of strength, not weakness, type of conversation. So that it may be around the year mark. Some people will say, hey, that's way too long. It's like, I care about people though. I'm trying to lead from my heart. I'm trying to give them every opportunity to win. And it's really, really expensive to have someone leave and start over again. So if I could just spend more time, and I do see some people eventually get over the hump, but it's just the confidence and the ability to capture true training and skills. Sometimes it's just not there, and it takes a little bit of time to really see that in someone.
Yeah. So what's your like tech stack? What are some of the tools and resources that you use that you've, found a lot of success with your, either on the leadership level or on the rep level?
So we predominantly, from a seller perspective, we predominantly use Salesforce and SalesLoft. And SalesLoft provides us that cadence around email, call, email.
Yeah.
It's been great on, once you've got good emails crafted to see opportunities, the emails that are maybe being open or resonating with people. And we pretty much stick to that. We do train, we don't use like sales or LinkedIn Navigator, but we train on how to use LinkedIn in their own way to be able to look for, end users in our space and so forth. Within SalesLoft, we use a tool called GeoPoint, which with all the data that's in Salesforce today, we can look on a map and see where they're located, and whether they're
territories. Yeah.
We do territory. So we can say, hey, here's your territory on the map, and here's all your pin marks of all your prospects or ones that have canceled or what have you. And it gives us the ability, a lot of people are visual, salespeople are super visual, and it really enables us to go, whoa, like I didn't know I had that much. It's like, yeah, you thought you touched everybody already, you haven't yet. So that's a good tool. From a management perspective, then we pull in Power BI, which is really just the ability for us to pull our data out of Salesforce and get it in a format that enables us to look at conversions and design it in a way that gives us more timely dashboard type stuff instead of trying to pull reports in Salesforce.
Gotcha. Okay. So this basically takes the data and visualizes it and makes it easier to understand and customize.
Yep. Correct. So for example, like we established, kind of what are our WIGs, our wildly important goals. It's like opportunity creation, agreement sent and sold. So we've got that established in there so we can see the activity around it. Then we manage to the conversions between each one. We look at the drivers, like on opportunities where does a BDM driving that opportunity, was an SDR or a partner. And then we look at the balance between multifamily and commercial. That's kind of our main page, but I've got probably 7 or 8 tabs that go into other looks of things. We try to do enough to be smart and engage in conversation, but not too much to choke ourselves out.
Like so much data, like every little thing.
Yeah, I've been at other organizations where they want to measure everything under the sun, or next month they're measuring something different, and you just can't keep up.
Yeah, I understand that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else besides Power BI?
Nope, that would be it.
Wow. Okay, cool. No, it's cool. It reminds me of have you ever heard of DataBox? It looks like I think it's like Microsoft's version. It looks like, is that Power BI? Is it Microsoft's?
That's a really good question.
Okay.
I'm not sure it is.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, man, I really, really appreciate, everything you've shared here. I definitely think there is quite a bit of value shared. Is there anything that I missed that you want to share?
I don't think so. I just think as a leader, show up, right? Be there for your people, be engaging, get out from behind your desk, and don't just bark orders. I mean, care about the people that report to you, because at the end of the day, your success is dependent on them, not yours. Right? I know where my success comes from. It's from everybody that I work with or reports to me. Right? That's where it comes from, and that's the kind of gratitude I have for the people that work with me.
You're only as successful as the people that you help to become successful. I think Zig Ziglar said that.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. All right, cool. So he is the late great. So
that's right.
Last question for you. What's your next play? You've had a lot of success. What's your play?
That's a really good question, right? I've been here for 2 years now. And I absolutely love what I'm doing and where I'm at. This company is fantastic, our leadership team and the people that work here. So I'm super happy where I'm at. My next play is to get this team, because we're growing, to kind of now the next level across, and we're already across the country, but we kind of have that next level revenue objective like every company does. And it's just a continuation of where we're at today. I'm kind of in the middle of it. So it's kind of hard to establish a next play. But to see this company through to the levels that it's never been at is we're already doing that, but it's the next level for me is that next revenue level, and having people all walk away at some point going, you know what, Todd and our leaders made me better.
Love it. Todd, thank you so much for your time. I think this is extremely valuable, and I really, really appreciate having you.
Yeah, you're welcome. This has been fun. Good conversation.
Absolutely, man. Have a good day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Play podcast. If you liked the show, make sure to leave us a review. For more resources, visit relentlessuniversity.com or download the free Relentless University app. And if you're interested in having me speak at your next event, visit relentlessrichie.com. Until next time.